the season to be jolly. La 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 la.
Hello and welcome to this year's political game show. My name's Nancy Masiska and I'm delighted to once again be your host. And what a year we've had, hey? From Pest Minister and #MeToo to fake news, Russians and Trump, and there is plenty of us to poke fun at, if poking's allowed. Is poking allowed? Okay, cool. So we hope that you'll play along with us on our two great teams, the Misinformed and the Vulnerables. The special guests joining us today are freelance designer Niall Crowley.
Hello.
And Ella Whelan, assistant editor at Spiked, WORLDbytes' favourite online magazine.
Hello.
And the volunteers on our casting couches today are Rob Harris, co-director of WORLDwrite acclaimed film on CLR James.
Hello.
Film student Greta.
Hey.
Barista, soon-to-be world traveller Matilda Lambert.
Hi.
And art student and camera woman Isabel Hume.
Hello.
Now, before we start, I do need to make a special disclosure announcement. This game contains gestures including staring, winking, whistling and knee touching, which may be upsetting. If you're affected by the content of this game, please visit the videos on feminism on www.worldbytes.org for a good verbal slapping. Now, are we all coping, teams?
Yeah, barely.
Just about.
Alright, let's crack on with the show. So for this round, I have a very generous pile of Christmas presents, and each one relates to a news item from 2017. We're looking for explanations for each object. So here are your presents.
We have to ooze.
Did you get two?
Oh, that's for me. I've got a big
Everyone
one.
gets two.
Yeah.
Greta.
Ah!
One
That's
for
tiny.
Niall.
Oh, I've got two. Wow.
Hashtag girls that lift.
Mine
Tilly.
Got it. Need help.
Ah!
Haha. I know what this is
Nancy, you spoiled us.
I
about.
know.
Nelson.
I'm amazing like that.
I think.
Oh, you're having a story.
So, Rob.
I think this is to do with gender and children.
Thinking more, she's dressed as a princess, so think more on the lines of children and princess stories.
Oh!
Go on.
It's about Sleeping Beauty,
Yes.
Oh,
which
yes.
a
Yes.
mother in England asked her son's school to not teach or let the kids under 6 read Sleeping Beauty because she is unconsensually kissed.
There's that
Oh,
brilliant,
that'd be ridiculous.
No,
You're making that up.
True
really.
story. True story.
there's that brilliant cartoon where the guy goes, "Oh, I better not kiss her." The prince said, "I better not kiss her," and then 100 years later, there's a skeleton.
Tilly, tell me about this first gift right here on the table.
Blonde.
Blonda.
Blonde.
bra.
Okay, no, you don't know, do you?
No,
sorry.
no.
The Misinformed.
I thought it was about the story that you shouldn't be giving booze to your elderly grandparents because it's damaging to their health.
Wow.
Oh, that's new. I didn't know that. Still getting a bottle of brandy. It relates to Scotland's minimum pricing for alcohol, so which will take effect in May 2018. And the idea is to stop poor people from getting pissed. So, but getting pissed on champagne, you'll be pleased to know, is still fine. Isabel, now.
This is Diesel, and I have a little toy car. I'm guessing this is something to do with petrol being like a sin to use or something, and you have to use diesel. I don't know. I have no idea.
Other way around.
I think I know what it is. I think
It's one.
I think the diesel's kind of demonised. You know, people thought diesel's like the efficient one, but now it's really bad if you've got diesel car.
Yeah, I'll give you that. You're heading in sort of the right direction. It actually refers to Steve Khan's war on diesel cars to clean up London's air.
Right.
So it's now £22 to drive into London in an old car, which is classed as anything from 2015 and older. So if you haven't got a new car, you can't go into London, basically, which should keep all the poor people out of the city centre.
That's good.
That's good. Tell me about this gift.
Oh, this one. Does it have something to do with cigarettes and plain packaging? There are no
Along with
cigarettes
the
now.
plain packaging came a complete ban of menthol cigarettes because they taste nicer.
Yeah, the EU Tobacco Products Directive banned all menthol-flavoured cigarettes starting from 2020. So until then, you'll be pleased to know you can still buy them, but not in packs of 10. And they hope that getting rid of the cheaper, smaller packets will stop poorer people from smoking. Ella, tell me about this gift.
Oh.
I've got a picture of Kevin Spacey and a knife because he has been chopped from Netflix. His show House of Cards has been axed because of allegations made against him of sexual harassment.
Got it.
This is a
It's a
very
lovely column.
nicely homemade column of Nelson. I'm guessing he didn't touch any 70-year-old boys, but
Well, I mean, it was,
Who knows?
it was young men on the ship scene. So.
but I honestly have no clue why I was given this.
I know.
Go for it, Ella.
It's to do with the recent kind of panic over historical statues, and so in relation to news stories in the US of statues being pulled down, there was suggestion that Nelson's column should be felled.
Yes, brilliant, Ella. Because the Admiral apparently defended slavery and was a white supremacist. Tell me about your gift.
Yeah.
Anyone want to take a pun?
No, do we need written
Ribbon
permission?
part.
Mistletoe, my
Yeah.
favourite part of Christmas, especially when I was a lonely singleton. This is in relation to the fact that the PSNI, which is the police in Northern Ireland, sent out a tweet recently in relation to the whole panic about sexual harassment that you should be wary of mistletoe at Christmas parties because non-consensual kissing under the mistletoe counts as rape. They actually then deleted the tweet and put out a new one saying, this has been taken a little bit out of context. Actually what we meant is that any socialising without consent is rape and sexual harassment. So it went from smooching under the mistletoe to socialising.
Yeah.
It's
Talk
sad
about
though, like some guys in the office might wait like 12 months for their chance. Everyone else in the office is like, yes, the
The
Christmas
wilting
party's coming.
mistletoe.
Where's the mistletoe? And then he gets accused of that. It's awful.
Now, tell me about this lovely piece
Oh, this?
complimenting your,
Well,
complimenting your
I was a bit
outfit.
mystified at first. I thought maybe it was Snow White or some kind of Christmas fairy tale. But could it be to do with a royal story? Could it be?
No.
Oh no, isn't it?
It's-
Meghan?
No,
No, princess.
No, I'm
Meghan?
afraid not. I
The
think more. It's like
multicultural, multi.
it's more of a
No?
fashion piece. See, more as a fashion piece.
You
So-
asked me about fashion. I think I'm twitching.
No.
Cultural
no.
appropriation.
Oh.
Wow, right in there. I was about to hand it over. It relates to ASOS. So basically what it was is they were forced to pull a piece of jewellery due to accusations of cultural appropriation. The offending item was a South Asian inspired headpiece modelled by a white woman, which by default is incredibly insensitive.
Quite privileged.
And we just got a few more gifts left to go. Greta, tell me about your lovely film.
Gone with the Wind.
Why was this in the news?
Sexist undertones.
Celebration of slavery.
Ah,
Ah.
there you go.
Ah, of course.
So yeah, basically, the film was criticised for a romantic depiction of slavery and stereotyping of black people. And interestingly, a 2014 poll found that 61% of black Americans actually liked the film, but activists apparently think that black people are so fragile that old films can damage them. And you know what? I actually hurt myself buying that DVD for you. Very grateful. So at the end of that round, the misinformed have 7 points and the vulnerables 3.5.
I do feel vulnerable now, indeed.
Yeah, I think you should reverse those just so we don't feel vulnerable.
You need to get over it. On to the next round. It's a Who Said It round. So I'm going to read some quotes from well-known figures, and you need to blow on your saucy, saucy lips if you know who said it. When asked about their views on the IRA in the 1980s, this person said, "It was 34 years ago. I had a rather splendid afro at the time. I don't have the same hairstyle, but I don't have the same views."
It is my MP, Labour MP, Diane Abbott.
Correct. Right, second one, it's Libyan. Oh, support. Support from the crew. Libyan city, sir, could be the new Dubai. All they have to do is clear away the dead bodies. You got it.
My neighbour, well, who lives up the road, Boris Johnson.
Yeah, correct.
Absolutely.
Almost every dollar of Western aid seems tied to some program of female emancipation, stamping out clitorectomy, polygamy, bride peace, or whatever. Ooh, tentative?
Donald Trump?
No. Could have done it.
Was it the Russians?
No, it wasn't the nation of Russia. No, it was actually how we've learned your neighbour.
Boris again.
Boris again.
Yeah, I knew that.
Right, next one. Years ago, everybody was working too much. Now everybody's complaining they're unemployed. People don't seem to make up their minds about what they want.
Prince Philip?
Yes. I thought it was against the law for a woman to solicit.
The Russians.
No, not the Russians. Nah, it was our Phil again. Prince Philip again.
Wow.
He was saying this to a female solicitor.
I thought he'd been like.
Oh, that's
away.
quite funny.
Yeah.
They say to themselves, he may be a mutton-headed old mugwump, but he's probably harmless.
Boris Johnson again.
Yes, and who is he talking about?
Prince
Someone really funny, I can't remember.
Prince Philip?
Oh, Nigel Farage?
No, it was Jeremy Corbyn. He was talking about Corbs.
Jeremy who?
Boris Johnson is a caggy-handed, cheese-headed fopdoodle with a talent for slummocking about. Who would do less damage to Britain's reputation in the world if Theresa May sacked him as Foreign Secretary and replaced him with a souvenir paperweight?
Was it Mrs. Johnson?
Maybe. No, it wasn't.
I think so.
Emily Thornberry?
No.
Tom Watson.
Yes. Right, now we're going to go on to our next round. It's going to be a picture round. So for this, you'll need to look at the pictures and you need to look at the pictures and touch the nearest man's knee if you know the story behind it. That's that side.
This was to do with an advert from Greggs, the bakers, about their sausage rolls, which are incredible. Greggs were asked to apologise because they had put the nativity scene and replaced Jesus, baby Jesus, with a sausage roll. And I mean, the sausage people have said that the sausage rolls are so good they saw God. So perhaps that is literally in relation to the advert.
Come on, our vulnerables, try and get in there. Tell me about the third picture.
Oh,
When you guys try
oh,
to go.
This is like third guess, but is it to do with the fact that like twerking's actually become like an official like workout now, like in a gym and like
A twerk out.
Twerk out, yeah,
Twerk
exactly.
This is really crude, but is it a Femme Fresh advert?
Yes.
Oh.
Trying to
Not that I
elaborate.
really ever use that product, but it was a Femme Fresh product, which is for personal hygiene for women. It was claimed that it was over-sexualizing women by using the image of women sweating and dancing suggestively.
Yeah, sort of on the right lines. It was because it was advertising their bikini line shaving, so the advert basically focused a lot on sort of their crotches because that's where your bikini line is. But a lot of people weren't too happy about it and reported it to the Advertising Standards Agency.
But it's a product for your faff. How do you not show faff?
Now, on to the final picture. Who can tell me what it's about? Go on, Greta.
Is it the KFC wrapping chicken?
Yes. Tell me a bit more about it. Why did it cause such grief for some people?
Mostly because it was very crude and portraying the chicken as if it wants to be killed and eaten.
Yeah, so basically they had sort of a live chicken strutting about in their advert to the soundtrack of X Gon Give It To You by DMX, and it received a lot of complaints because it was offensive and distressing for vegetarians, vegans and children, and the lyrics condone weapons and violence.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Oh.
One more picture. Who's going to tell me about this final picture? Go on, Rob.
Okay, I think this is to do with an airline. This was in the wake of the Harry and Meghan thing.
Yeah.
So the idea that he's taken is Harry. He's taken, so all you single ladies need to get off. And this is where, if you go to Luxembourg, Dubai and Bangkok, you've got single princes, I think. So that's the joke. I think it's British Airways, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You get
Yeah.
points to that. So the headline read, "That's it, girls. He's taken. Now go and find another kingdom with a prince still single. The world is your oyster." In this awareness-raising round, we're going to consider 10 ways men damage women with their everyday behaviour. Now, by now you've heard of the phrase manspreading, which is when a guy sits with his legs apart to assert his dominance.
How dare you?
So, for the misinformed, your words are broplementing, mansalting, bropen mouth chewing, mentoring, sleep man-peer, and mansplaining. For the vulnerables, your ones will be mantraduction, manspiration, manterrogating, manpacking, mensoring, and manslamming. We'll go to the vulnerables first.
Man productions? Is it where men, quite rightly, take responsibility for introducing their female friends.
Yeah,
Because they're incapable of doing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a point right there.
Yeah. And yeah, you don't need to answer on this round. Really. I can do it all here. No, okay. I'll let you answer a couple of them. Go for it. Go for it, girls.
Manterrogating.
Guy comes up to you like in a bar and he's just like, "So you're single? What are you doing this?" And like interrogating you loads of questions.
Well,
Never
you're chatting
ending
you up.
questions, yeah.
You mean
Yeah, basically.
that flattering
Like,
to when
never
man pushes
really
some
annoying.
attention?
Yeah.
Asking loads and loads of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, how dare he?
Alright, on to the next one.
Man packing.
Yeah, it could be one of a few things,
thought,
couldn't it,
thought
really?
like gymming, like packing up in the gym, like loads of
Yeah,
muscles.
well, stuffing things down his underpants
Yeah.
to improve his masculinity, or not being very good at packing to go on holiday.
Just packing like a pair of socks and that's it.
Yeah.
Stuffing socks
If
down
it's
their
that one,
pants.
Most of the gaming I know
particularly,
pack their things at least 3 weeks before they go away. I normally pack 5 minutes before I leave, so, you know,
No.
gender stereotyping
package
here, I
bigger.
think.
No, the man packing actually was similar to man spreading, so it's when a man brings large backpacks onto the tube
Oh,
and it takes up too much room.
cool,
So if
man.
you see a woman with a large backpack, you have to realise that hers is for makeup and items they need to measure up to the standards imposed on her by the patriarchal society.
Yes, none of
societal
them really do
norms.
that, is
For
it?
a massive tampon.
So,
Jumbo.
do we do man slamming?
Mentoring.
Oh, mentoring. Have we jumped the gun?
Is that when men censor women's speech?
Not
a bad idea, really, is
sort
it?
of.
But
It's when they censor themselves to women. So it's when men censor their cool party bro time stories around women because they don't think they can handle anything offensive.
God, you can't win, can you, if you're a man?
Man slamming.
It's if a man has ever slammed into you as they barge their way through the crowds during rush hour,
Women
As
never
if
do
they're-
that, do they?
as if they're more important than you.
Mm.
And if it's happened to you, then yes, you've been a victim of man slamming. Tell me about your answers.
Okay. Yeah. Bropementing. Is this when a guy compliments a woman, but as a bro and not as a person of sexual interest? So it's like when a guy compliments a guy and he's like, "No homo, bro." For a woman and a guy, it's like, "No sexual harassment, bro."
Good point there. This definition had it as when they compliment you without asking for consent first. So they always need to say, if you're out and then there's someone who's interested in you, they have to go, "Do you consent to me complimenting you?" before the conversation can begin.
Oh, wow.
No.
Wow.
Are you making this up?
On the sheet.
Oh, okay. It must be true then.
Mansalting?
I just thought this one was just when men basically insult people to try and belittle, like particularly presumably women.
Oh, don't be stupid.
I've never done such a thing.
Go on, next one.
Broken mouth chewing, which, if anything, is the one I'm most sympathetic to, perhaps. But is this when men chew with their mouth open and have bad table manners?
Yeah, it's social justice scholars realise that feeling the need to display the crushing and grinding of food is actually a sign of dominance over the lesser being that you are consuming.
I mean, it's ridiculous, but I do hate people who chew with their mouth open.
Yeah, but
so-
is it a man thing? I never thought of it as a man thing. I hate it as well. But,
What if a person has a
Yeah.
deviated septum and they can't breathe?
a deviated septum.
Yeah, so they have to open their
They have
mouth
to
while
all the
chewing.
options.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
because men have stronger jaws, so they swing them more.
Sleep mambia. Is this also in relation to a stereotypically mannish thing of I'm going with sleep apnea, but for men? So is it men snoring, basically?
Imposing their existence on us even when they're asleep.
They're always in control.
Different from women snoring, because when a woman snores, it's because she's been man-interrupted all day and needs a way for her voice to be heard.
Mansplaining. Is this when
Just a moment, 1 sec. Can I just? I think I've got a
Explain?
No. I think I better carry on with this one. Yeah.
Go on, go on, mansplain.
Well, I think mansplaining is when men take it upon themselves to explain how things, are, because they're so much better at explaining than women. Even women's things we can explain better.
I've never actually seen that happen in real life, but I'm guessing it's a real thing.
Told it's a thing.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Awesome.
Get a man to
Mentoring.
read those.
So the scores so far are 10.5 to the vulnerable.
Yeah.
And for the misinformed, 19. Still a chance. Our next round is called Sexual Harassment. Do you get it? Now, the Harvey Weinstein revelations have highlighted surprising ignorance about sexual harassment. So the aim of this round is to test your knowledge of harassment. So I'm going to read out a passage. Yeah.
Bro.
Whenever a team member on either team believes they've heard an example of sexual harassment, you need to give your pink fluffy whistle a blow and tell us whether it is verbal harassment, visual sexual harassment, physical sexual harassment, or non-verbal sexual harassment. We're all ready? Sitting comfortably? Mary was having a few issues with her computer at work, so her colleague Tom offered to help out and went over to Mary's desk. Nope. Steady. Tom leaned over Mary to reach...
Physical sexual harassment.
Yes, he's invading her personal space and also blocking her physical movement.
Oh,
And
God.
accidentally touched her hair.
God.
Very physical harassment.
Yes.
Touch her hair.
Unwanted
We're feeling
touching.
vulnerable here.
Tom apologised and made an off-the-cuff remark about how soft her hair was. Jeez!
That would be verbal harassment.
Okay, you get a point for that. Now we're going to move on to our second story. Even though Henry and Lisa never spoke before, Henry was in love with her.
Non-verbal
To
harassment.
love someone.
Yes. She doesn't know about it, so yes.
No. He imagined what it would be like to hold hands with Lisa and go to the cinema together.
Oh, creepy.
He would often stare at her from his office window.
A visual harassment.
That's right.
Visual
Visual
harassment.
harassment.
So, on a Monday morning after a long weekend, he decided to finally go up to Lisa to introduce himself. She looked better than he remembered. So he approached her, took her hand, and asked her...
Physical harassment.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. Unwelcome touching. And he asked her, do you want to go on a date with me?
That's verbal harassment there.
That's
Yes,
bombarding.
it is.
Terrible behaviour, surely.
Now we're going to move on to real or fake news. Fake news. Fake news, which hit the headlines in 2016, we know is rather fiction itself. It's called politics. But do we need classes to sort out fact from fiction? Let's see. I have a list of statements on women, and as I read them out, you need to decide if they're true or false by showing your signs you've got under the table.
I've been waiting.
So tell me if it's true or false. The first one. Melbourne has introduced female figures on pedestrian crossing lights to reduce unconscious bias. Clean sweep, it is true. For years, women have had to endure an oppressive and patriarchal traffic system.
Can't women wear trousers?
Call it the green man, don't they? They don't call it the green woman, like the green
It's the
man.
green person.
Yeah, it's the green person.
That's it, we need a
Individual.
gender neutral.
But they've also got the traffic lights around like Trafalgar Square where they've got the
The sex symbols.
what's it? The
Oh, that's it. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
like,
slightly.
what's going on there?
So now gays can also cross the street
Yeah,
safely.
they've just stuck on pavements for years. haven't they? Right, okay. Now on to the next round. In this, we've got 7 words transgender people want you to know about, but not necessarily be or say. You need to pull a party popper if you know what they mean. So have your party poppers at the ready. First one. Oh. TERF. TERF, T-E-R-F.
Oh,
Means trans exclusionary radical feminist. A feminist that doesn't believe trans people exist.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Alright, next one. Ladyboy. Ella?
I've actually been to see the Ladyboys of Bangkok and Brighton. Doesn't that mean someone who essentially dresses like a woman, in a feminine way? A man who does?
Sort of. It's more exclusively related to Asian people. Tend to use it
Time.
exclusively when talking about Asian people. It's transphobic and a transmisogynistic slur,
is it?
according to this.
Okay.
Doesn't stop the Ladyboys of Bangkok in Brighton.
But
Fantastic
they're
show.
quite
They enjoy
into it
being
in
called like
Thailand.
that.
Cisbian.
Oh, that went far.
Right there.
A lesbian that identifies with the gender she was assigned at birth and only partakes in relationships with other lesbians that identify the same.
Yeah, pretty
Of course,
much.
yeah, we all knew that.
They refuse to date trans women. Trans misogyny. Oh,
I think it's women who discriminate against other trans women.
transphobia and misogyny combined.
Wow. How evil can you get?
Heteronormativity. Oh, I didn't even finish the word.
Sorry, I got
What was I
excited.
saying then?
Heteronormativity.
Okay, yeah. What was it?
It's the state of being where heterosexuals get priority to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the default.
Shocking, isn't it?
Trans geekery. Ah. Go on.
Is that when someone has a passion for transgender people?
No.
No, is it people who are obsessed with the language of transgender politics?
No.
Greta.
Is it just trans geeks?
Yeah. Pretty
Smart
much.
transgender.
I thought they were way too cool to be geeky.
Trans geekery is an impressive or unusual technical task performed by someone who is both transgender and a geek.
Wow.
That happens.
Well, that's amazing.
Autogynephilia. Aimed at me right now.
Wow.
Is it a man who fantasizes and he gets turned on by himself, is like dressed as a female, like it's a female?
Yeah, that's it. It was it's a sex-fueled mental illness made up by Ray Blanchard, and he defined it as a man's paralytic tendency to be sexually aroused by the thought or image of himself as a woman.
Ooh.
Alright, we've got another picture on coming up now. Woo! So for this, you'll see a number of pictures, and you need to blow a Santa or reindeer.
That's a bit personal.
If Santa consents, blow on Santa, and if you know which is the odd one out and why.
Why did it make a noise but
Vulnerables again. One out.
I think the second one, the hashtag #MeToo movement,
Ooh.
that's about the sexual harassment claims. Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump and Theresa May didn't claim to be sexually harassed, so the hashtag #MeToo is the odd one out.
I'm going to go with Theresa May as the odd one out.
And why would she be the odd one out?
Because
She sold us out on Brexit.
that, but also because I have a feeling that Kim Jong and Donald Trump and the Me Too movement were more talked about on Twitter than Theresa May this year.
Nearly. I'm going to give you a half for that. Theresa is the odd one out, and it's because the rest of them, so Kim Jong-un, the hashtag MeToo movement, and Donald Trump were all shortlisted for Time Magazine's Person of the Year 2017. Okay, you've got our next group of images. Coming to Rob there.
I think Taylor Swift.
Why?
Is the odd one out. I think, hasn't she refused to condemn something? And I'm trying to remember what it was. If anyone could help me out here.
She's confused to condemn
Kim Jong-un.
Trump and Trump's politics.
That's not the right answer.
Am I trying to say that?
Over to
You
us.
can get one chance to say
I don't know if
it.
I'm right.
Try.
Is it Avril Lavigne?
Why would you think it'd be Apple?
Is she the only one who hasn't been accused of cultural appropriation?
You get half a point. You've got the right reason but the wrong person.
Oh.
Can you tell me the right person?
Is it Katy Perry?
No, it's
Eminem.
And he's the other one up because all the others, like you said, they've been accused of cultural appropriation. So for Taylor Swift, it was her characterization of hip-hop culture in the Shake It Off video. It was considered pretty tasteless. Perry was accused of appropriating the Japanese culture by depicting a geisha at the Video Music Awards. And then Avril
Oh, it's the
Lavigne
Hello
was
Kitty
accused
thing.
of
Yeah.
the Hello Kitty video. Apparently it reinforced negative stereotypes about Japanese people, whereas obviously Eminem, being a white male rapper, just blended into the hip-hop landscape. Now, guys, we've come to the end of our quiz. That's it.
I haven't had my mince
Yeah.
pie yet.
So, at the end of our quiz, the vulnerables had 28 points,
Ooh.
and the misinformed had 32. So, the winner's trophy this year goes to the misinformed.
Very
Trophy and
Rigged.
a special prize. Well, you don't go empty-handed. Commiserations.
Oh,
Very good effort. So a very special thank you to our guests Niall and Ella, and we want to thank all our amazing volunteers and the crew. We hope you have a very merry, trigger warning, Christmas and Happy New Year to all of our viewers. And if you want to take part in the next quiz, just email us.
Cheers! Merry Christmas!
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a